The results of my postdoc in Normandy.
Hello. So, my postdoc in Normandy on the Seine River. I work with Professor Lise, Dominique Disco, and Carole Neme on this project, which aim to trace the landscape evolution of the lower Seine system in Normandy. So, as you can see, it's the most beautiful river of the whole Normandy here, and the particular thing with the Seine River is it traces important buckles, important meanders at the end of the system, which is quite particular in the landscape. And we focused on the fluvial deposits on the Seine River as the main agents of the transformation of the landscape. Two things are quite well known in this part of the Seine Valley. The lower Seine Valley is organized in stepped fluvial deposits, which means kind of coherent incision steps through time. It is a little bit different in the middle Seine Valley. It's also step deposit, but little steps. So we speak about semi-stepped deposits. So two different dynamics, and we focused our research on the lower Seine Valley with clearly stepped deposits. The thing is, we are in an estuarine part. We are near the sea. So the blue line that you see here is the sea level. So some of the fluvial deposits, glacial deposits, are located under the current sea level. So we don't see them. And the problem is the fluvial system follows the slope of the bedrock incision and not the current slope of the Seine River. So it's not easy to map because of that. So we did a little reorganization of the topography in order to be able to analyze the fluvial deposits according to the maximum bedrock incision, in order to speak of in relative height and not latitude. We transformed the topography of the Seine River in a 3D model. Then we plotted the main boreholes inside the main trunk of the river in order to recreate a mesh representing the bedrock. We extrapolated this data on the whole valley in order to obtain a kind of piezometric horizon representing an hypothetic bedrock. And we used that new mesh to normalize the topography. What is good in the Seine River is we have LiDAR-based high-resolution digital elevation model, which means we can see with quite good accuracy the morphologies. We did a suppression of the former base level in order to obtain a new normalized topography where everything expresses the relative height above the main bedrock incision. And so we could propose correlation between fluvial deposits. For example, those levels have the same color, so maybe they belong to the same generation. So it was easier to map because of this transformation. So that's what we did after that. I reused a lot of the former BRGM and former researchers' work, and I organized it a little bit differently, mainly to restructure the organization in relative height above bedrock. And when we zoom on some of the places, here the little white squares, we can see that we also have marks of ancient meanders, abandoned cut-off meanders everywhere in the Seine Valley. We have quite numerous, quite a good quantity of them, and those are the mark of former landscapes, former trajectories of the river. So with this geomorphological map and those morphologies visible in the landscape, we could try to recreate former trajectories of the Seine River. This work is usually not really possible because the morphology may start to disappear in the landscape with time. But here we are incising the river in chalk bedrock, and the chalk bedrock seems to collect correctly the imprint of the former trajectories of the river on the entire incision of the valley. So we could propose this, and we could analyze these new trajectories and plot the different meanders. This is a kind of exaggerated cross-section of the Seine River. In reality, it's much more flat. But in order to see the different levels and also the different paleomeanders, here in blue. So there are numerous of them, and we could do statistics on those meanders, those paleomeanders. We measured their width, their sinuosity, their radius, and tried to calculate estimated discharge, stuff like that. But also, we could see some fluvial generations, and some of the peaks we have here, they highlight moments, generations, with more meander cutoffs than the others. So things seem to happen at different timings during the river incision. And in order to understand more about those processes, we applied geochronological methods in order to know when those changes of the river system happened. Former work were started by Carol and co-authors doing paleomagnetism in cave systems, because you have quite numerous cave systems in the chalk in the Seine Valley. And so we tried to complete this approach with more samples in caves and a little bit in river deposits also. Here is what we have. So with those new samples, we completed the previous work and started to have a sort of barcode which could represent a paleomagnetic scale, and so the first approach of geochronological data on the Seine River incision. Then we completed it with ESR on quartz burial dating. We sampled a few places and we collected previous data that were achieved by the museum team. And these are the first preliminary results we have. So the red ones are the new ones, and the black ones are the former ones. So quite coherent results with former investigations. And new results, for example, on the plus 40 and the plus 60 meters of relative height elevation. But we didn't manage to see sufficiently well the stratigraphy of the upper layers. So we sampled in cave systems, which delivered coherent results, reaching more than 2 million years old for the beginning of the river incision. Then this is what we have when we plot all the data together with their paleomagnetic imprint. So some of them are quite coherent, and others a little bit less. Here, for example, it's in reverse period, while the majority of the results we have seems to be in the normal period. So we applied a new approach. We tried to combine stratigraphy, paleomagnetism, and absolute ages in a Bayesian approach. So 3 kind of informations in the same model. So the Bayesian way works first with stratigraphy interpretation. And here it is the different elevation of the river system that provides the main driver of the river and the main way that the time evolves from the top to the bottom. Then we created a paleomagnetism calibration curve, a little bit like the radiocarbon calibration curve from radiocarbon dating, but here applied to paleomagnetism in order to plot the magnetostratigraphic barcode to our absolute ages. Then with that, we could apply new information to our absolute ages and combine them all together. So this is what it does. It transforms the original Gaussian distribution and applies it to the most probabilistic period, magnetic period. And so with that, we could obtain a coherent age model, age incision model, that is coherent with the stratigraphy and with the paleomagnetism data. So this is what we have right now with the current geochronological data. So the model is kind of linear. We see a little change at the beginning, which means the start of the incision here, which represents also the first meanders that are marked in the landscape. It seems quite coherent with the some age model that is located between 100 and 200 kilometers north to the Seine River, the previous work from Pierre-Antoine. And then this can be a first start of analysis of this age model. Maybe an incision start here, where we have the first meander cutoff and the first moment of incision, maybe an acceleration with a majority of the cutoff meanders in this place. And here, we still don't know, maybe we should need more absolute ages. It could be a transition from 41 kiloyears cycles to 100 kiloyears cycles. These are the first results of the postdoc, combining a lot of different data together. And I did not do that alone, and thank you for your attention.